Good afternoon. I'm Faisal Saleh, the Executive Director and the founder of the Palestine Museum US. It gives me a great pleasure today to welcome our audience on Facebook in the United States, in Palestine, and around the world. Today is the third day of Palestine Art Week, a week-long celebration of Palestinian artistic excellence. During the week, in addition to our activities virtually, we are also asking everyone to post about Palestinian art, post about your favorite artists, your favorite pieces of art on all social media using the hashtag Palestine Art Week, one word. Today we have two talented Palestinian artists. We are very excited about having them talk to you and show you a little bit about their art. At this point, I would like to introduce the museum team, Nancy Nesbitt, the head curator, and Mervat Siwade, the director of communications. This program is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on Facebook once we finish with the program. It would also be on the museum's website as well as the museum's channel on YouTube. Without further ado, please welcome Nancy Nesbitt.
Hello, good morning. As well, I'd like to welcome you to the video of the Palestine Museum US this week during Palestine Art Week. We have two artists who are going to talk about their work today. The first one is Dana Barkawi. She was born in Amman, Jordan. Her father is from Nablus. Her mother is from Hebron. She's a Palestinian artist now based in Amman, Jordan. She was educated as an architect first at the German Jordanian University. And she also has a master's degree in international cooperation and urban development from the German University in Jordan. And also from a master's degree also from the University of Catalonia in Spain. She's worked as an urban planner in Jordan and interned at UN Habitat headquarters in Nairobi, Kenya. She's multi-talented, as you will see. Her work is in the collection of the Palestine Museum US, and her work that we're going to show today is part of her latest series, A Land Without a People. Working from black and white archival photographs sourced at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., she has colorized them, added gold leaf and gold threaded embroidery to further distinguish Palestinian patterning in the clothes, flora, and backgrounds. This amalgamation of historic photographs of real people in the past, combined with continuing painting and embroidery of past generations, identifies these people as belonging to the land that surrounds them in these photographs, making these depictions clearly the land with a people and these people of this land. At this point, I turn it over to Dana Barkawi.
Thank you, Nancy, for the introduction, and thank you, Faisal, for this great initiative, the Artist Talk series. I'm so happy to be here and be talking in this program. So a brief introduction. My name is Dana Barkawi. I'm a visual artist, and I'm going to be talking in the next 20 minutes about my work, where I'm from, my style, and my latest collection titled A Land Without a People. To tell you a little bit about myself, I grew up in a house where Palestine was an important topic. My father left Palestine when he was 5 years old, and he never returned. So the idea of Palestine as a homeland was very much alive in my family. Every family gathering, this topic has to come up either in nostalgia or in reference to recent political events. And for me, only hearing about Palestine created an image and developed a sense of belonging for me to a place that I've never seen. Also, the fact that I'm living in Jordan. Jordan is a country which shares a border with Palestine, and Jordan. I'm living in a place where contextually, culturally, and politically, Palestine is an important topic of discussion. So, growing up in an environment like this definitely influenced the way I'm connected to Palestine, and it created an interest for me to know more about Palestine and to create my own connection. So Palestine became more than a place. It became a concept. It became a concept of justice and freedom and resistance and existence and beauty, but also total grief and maybe sadness that comes with something that is not easily attainable. So I wanted to read more, and I just wanted to know more, but I also wanted to do something to develop this connection. And I found that Palestinians always found a way to resist simply by existing and by creating, either be it through traditional embroidery, photography, painting, sculpting, drawing, writing, acting, singing. They always find a way to be heard and seen. And so creation is vital because it verifies that you exist and that you will be heard. So I wanted to create. And my sense of artistic expression comes largely from the women in my family. I've always been surrounded by women who made and created art. And there was always some piece of art or an embroidered piece that's hung on the wall or made into a cushion or a dress or a painting. So I was always surrounded by this from a very young age. And everyone wants to create their connection to their homeland, and art became my way of creating my connection with Palestine. So I started exploring and experimenting with different mediums and concepts. Initially, I started working with Palestinian poetry and incorporating poems into my artwork, so translating poems into visual art. And I started in 2013. And at the time, I worked a lot with newspaper and collage. And throughout time, my style developed, and the way I approached different concepts also changed. So now that I gave a little background about myself, I want to talk about my latest collection. So maybe we can start now viewing the first image of the collection. So the collection it's titled A Land Without a People, and it's a 10-piece collection. Mm-hmm. So now I'm going to go through some images of the artworks of this collection and then explain. So this first artwork, it's titled Girl from Ramallah. So to give a little background about this collection, this took me around a year to finish, 2019 to be specific. And the title, A Land Without a People, is in reference to the famous claim that the land of Palestine was a land without a people for a people without a land, which was one of the main justifications for the Zionist establishment of the Israeli occupation in Palestine in 1948. So this occupation is built on the conscious and intentional erasure of Palestinian culture, history, and existence. And so this is where the inspiration comes for this collection. So the artworks in this collection aim to challenge and celebrate Palestinian existence and culture. They challenge this claim and they celebrate existence and culture. And they portray people of the land before 1948. So all of the characters and the persons in this collection are of people, Palestinians before 1948. So this collection largely focuses on the absent and erased narrative. If we can move on to the next image. So this artwork is titled Women with Their Water Jars. And the artworks in this collection act as a portal into a time when Palestine witnessed peace and coexistence. So as I said, all of the photographs were taken before the land and its people were forcefully removed and displaced from their homes and their land. Moving on to the next image. Throughout this collection, I use beauty in my work as a tool to attract the viewer. But beyond the pleasing nature of the work and below all of these aesthetic layers, there is a political agenda which challenges institutional invisibility of Palestinian history and experience. And I intend that my work delivers a sense of openness that allows to incorporate the viewer as an active participant. So the viewer becomes an eyewitness to a past that is remembered only by an older generation that is now vanishing. And this is why this collection is very important for me. Moving on to the next artwork. The viewer is free to imagine how things were, how Palestine was when it witnessed peace and coexistence. It is very interesting for me, and it is very important for me how the viewer interacts with the artwork. And it's also important for me to leave that space of freedom where the viewer can imagine the persons in the artwork, how they lived, how they were like, even imagine how the artwork was made, because throughout my artwork there is a lot of embroidery, gold leafing, paint, all in the same artwork. So it's always interesting for me to see how the viewer can also imagine how this artwork was being done. Moving on to the next artwork. If we can move to the next image, Faisal. In this image is titled Farmer Woman from Ramallah area. And the artworks and the people that are in the artwork, there is so much embroidery patterns, embroidery motifs, traditional ceramic art that has been incorporated as elements into these artworks. And they also signify the area from which the characters come from. Some come from Ramallah, some come from Hebron, and the different areas have different embroidery symbols and patterns and ceramic art. And this collection comes back to the idea that Palestinians need to tell more stories. And I want to be a part of the movement, a small part of the movement to never forget. So to come back a little bit to the process, I started this collection by researching pictures and documents on Palestine before 1948. There is actually a lot of documentation of the people of the land, their culture and their lifestyle. And then I selected the images that have the potential, that have the highest or the strongest potential of delivering my message. And I choose photographs that show me the potential, photographs that show me what I can do with them, basically. And as mentioned before by Nancy, those photographs are all available at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. And this is where I got these photographs to work with. Moving on to the next image, I will talk a little bit about material selection. So this image is titled Woman from Bethlehem. And you can see that in her outfit. And what's interesting about this image in particular is that she's an unmarried woman from Bethlehem. And so married women and unmarried women, they have different outfits, different embroidery patterns and symbols, and it's all incorporated in the physical, how they physically express themselves. Now, about the material selection for this collection, I used paper, acrylic on paper, and paper was suitable for this collection because usually paper has a nostalgic feel about it. And it was also interesting for me to see how I can work with such a common material in an uncommon way, by stitching it, by collaging it, painting it, gold leafing it. So there are actually no rules as to how the process happens. Moving on to the next image, I like to let the picture tell me how it wants to look like, if that makes sense. So I look at the composition of the photograph. It's a black and white photograph. And I look at the composition of it, the character, how the character is sitting, standing, what they're doing. And then from there, I build on that. And I let the picture basically inspire how it wants to look. Can we move on to the next image, please? This image is titled Road to Hebron. And so coming back to the to my idea, I was talking about how I like to let the image tell me how it wants to look like. Sometimes I get an art block, and sometimes I don't know what to do with a certain photograph. So I leave it, I work on another one, and then I come back to it. Sometimes something goes wrong as I'm painting, or I think that something went wrong. Maybe too much paint here, too less thread there. But I've sort of created a system for myself. If something goes wrong, I find ways to continue around it and make it work. Moving on to the next image, please. This image is titled Woman Going to Market. And what's really interesting about this specific image is that it's relatable to people. So she's a mother, and you can see she's carrying her child on her back. And people, this collection, mainly people can easily relate to the characters, because they're people doing daily life activities. And this is why it's strongly relatable. Moving on to the next image. This image is titled Hebron, and this was a challenging piece of work for me. So more details, if you can, in the future. So all of these images are available on my website, and you can also see the details. So the sun in this artwork is fully embroidered with a damask rose embroidery motif, which is native to the area of Hebron. Moving on to the next artwork, please. This is titled Carmel and Haifa, and it shows fishermen dragging in a huge net full of fish from the sea. Can we move on to the next artwork, please, now? This artwork is actually from the first edition of this collection, and it's called Jaffa Orange Culture. And from there, you can see the boat filled with oranges. And it's the boat itself, with the ropes and everything, is fully embroidered with gold metal thread. And the next image would be the last one, which was also one of the older artworks from the first collection. And it's actually in Bethlehem. It shows shepherds with their sheep, and the stars in the sky are fully embroidered with gold and silver thread. So this would be the last image in this presentation. In the end, I just want to say that in the beginning of me working on my collection, I was very careful usually, and worried about how people will perceive my work, worried about expressing myself also freely through art. However, as I worked on different collections, the process developed me as an artist and as a person, and I grew. And I'm also curious to see what I will grow and progress into in the next couple of years in the future. So I have received a lot of positive feedback, which has been a great push for me to open up more and to experiment more. And I actually have a couple of projects in the pipeline that are similar in concept. However, the execution and approach is different and it's more experimental. So I'm curious to see how that will develop into. Thank you so much. I hope I've made everything, covered every point.
Thank you, Dana. Let me add some more information. I know some of the people watching us are inquiring about the original black and white historic photographs. There's a large collection of those photographs on exhibit at the museum when things get back to normal in the future. Hopefully you will be able to go and see them. Right behind me, on my right in the distance there, you could see a picture of a shepherd boy with a flock of sheep from around 1900. All these photographs come from a collection called the Matson collection. And Matson was the person who immigrated from the US to Palestine and settled in Jerusalem in the late 1800s. And he and his family opened one of the better known hotels, the American Colony Hotel in Jerusalem in the 1800s. And he was an avid photographer, so every week he would go roaming around Palestine and the surrounding areas and taking photographs. When he passed away, his family donated all the negatives and plates. I guess a lot of times they weren't negatives, they were using plates in those days. They donated all these to the Library of Congress, and the Library of Congress scanned and digitized all those photographs, and there is a collection of 22,000 photographs in the Library of Congress. You can search for the Matson collection, the Library of Congress, and you can wade through 22,000 photographs and find the ones you like. That you could also search by city, by topic, etc. It's a wonderful collection. It's available online at any time. It'd be a great pastime for you during the lockup time. Thank you. I'm going to pass this back to Nancy. And Nancy, I've just unmuted you, so you're ready to talk.
Thank you so much. And Dana, we look forward to seeing what you do in the future as well. The next person that we'd like to present is Mohammed Musallam. He lives in Toronto, Canada now. He was born in Gaza, Palestine, and is presently a lecturer in the painting department in the Fine Arts College at Al-Aqsa University in Gaza. He received his PhD in philosophy of art at the Fine Arts College of Minya University in Egypt with a thesis entitled "The Place in the Palestinian Painting as Experienced by the Researcher." After his master's degree at Helwan University in Egypt with the thesis entitled, again, Influence of Modern Trends on Contemporary Palestinian Painting, he's had numerous exhibitions internationally, including in Paris, Greece, the French Cultural Councils in Gaza, Ramallah, Jerusalem and Bethlehem, and the French consulate in Jerusalem, as well as exhibitions in Dubai and Cairo, Egypt. He works with found materials, and different painting tools are used in his installations. His practice includes performance, photography, installation, video, and collage in very simple renditions, as he'll explain to you. With that, I'd like to present Mohammed Musallam, who will discuss his work as well.
Hi, everybody. First, I'd like to thank the Palestinian Museum for the invitation. I'm really glad to be here with you to talk about myself and my artworks. I'm a Palestinian visual artist. So first, I just want to talk about a little bit about my education background, then about my previous job as a lecturer of Fine Art College in Al-Aqsa University in Gaza. Then I will go through my artwork. I will start talking about my painting, my technique, then my installation, and we will show some of my artworks. You know, as I mentioned, I was born in Gaza, but my parents were born in Palestine before Nakba. They forced to flee Palestine and they stay in Gaza. First, they live in El Maghazi camp, the middle of Gaza. Then my parents moved to Gaza. I live all my life in Gaza City. I studied art in Palestine, in Nablus. I have a bachelor degree in painting, and I finished my degree in 1999. Then I get back to Gaza, and I start working as a lecturer of fine art in painting department. I used to teach painting, drawing, and the history of Palestinian painting, as well as sometimes some Arabic calligraphy classes. I'd like to mention something about my previous job. Actually, some artists believe that artists should focus in just art. My point of view that I like to teach art. They keep me really inspired by my student surrounding me. When you teach hundreds of students every year and surrounded by yourself, by talent student, they inspire me. Actually, I get a lot of things. I learn more than I teach my student. Anyway, then I got a scholarship from my university and the Al-Qattan Foundation. I did my master degree, as you mentioned, Cairo. Then I got my PhD from Egypt 4 years ago. And after that, I moved with my family to Toronto, and I live now and work as a photographer in Toronto, Canada. Let's start talking about my painting. As you know, as a bachelor degree in Nablus, in Palestine, it was academic learning. We learn how to draw, how to paint, how to paint like portrait, model, landscape, still life, etc. After that, I started thinking about my style, how I can improve my technique. And actually, I like to use some materials in my art. It's kind of give me some abstract feeling, some 3D. Then I start to use paper, newspaper, materials surrounding me like Palestinian paper. Any materials give me technique, give me texture like collage. And I use all kind of colors. Now I use acrylic colors, oil colors, pastel, watercolors. It depends the concept. To talk about my concept as an artist, refugee artist, live all my life in Gaza, so all the Trouble situation, intifada, 3 wars. Of course, all my concept and theory talking about my humanity, my freedom to live in peace, to get to move freely. This is kind of I like to express and my thought about talking about all these idea, but I try to introduce these things in like abstract painting, let's talk, and contemporary trend art. Okay, so let's start talking about my painting. Maybe the idea will goes on. Can you start, please, Faisal, for the start painting, please? First painting. As I mentioned before, I start using different materials in my painting, and recently I start to focus and use less materials more than before and less color. Just try to focus, to concentrate in the idea. This one of my painting, I did it in the just last year. You know, as a Palestinian all over the world, we used to revive like a Palestinian Land Day in March 30 every year. We cannot, we cannot forget what happened in 1976 when the Israeli occupation confiscated thousands of dunums in Palestine. It's kind of remind ourselves and remind generation by generation this connection with the land. This is against what the politician Israeli said, generation by generation Palestinian will forget this land, they will start their life abroad. So I think, okay, if we look to the painting, it's for me, it's sometimes it's hard to explain abstract painting, but let's try. Look to the background. I use my Palestinian original passport. I use it a lot of my painting. It's kind of, it's sample of my idea, of my freedom, of my future. And I represent the person and red color and white color and some texture like newspaper. Moving on and stay like stable in this painting. Can you move on to the next page, please? Next image. Also, this page represents the geographic in Palestine. I abstract the color. Now I feel I don't want to use color. Maybe you can feel all the bottom side. I use the Palestinian paper with a stamp, and this is like a geographic border in Palestine. With the red can give me the really wrong express about the issue. It's about how it's hard to cross this border between the black, between the white and red color through this kind of tears. Can you go on to the next image, please? If we can see here in this image, I didn't use any color. I use just the Palestinian passport, original Palestinian passport. It's this talking about how Palestinians live in Gaza, especially live under siege. They cannot move. They have passport, but they cannot move. They cancel, the border is closed every time. It's hard really to live. People in Gaza, they have been living under siege 13 years, 14 years. It's very hard to move. Later on, we'll talk about another big installation. I focus on this issue exactly. Can you go to the next image, please, Faisal? Okay, this is this big painting. I did it last year, and I share it in the opening of the Museum of the Palestinian People in US. I create all the world map in my Palestinian. It's kind of, you can see the stamp, but as a Palestinian, we cannot reach all these maps. It's like kind opposite of the idea, actually. It's kind of, I hope I can move freely to travel everywhere, but with this passport, with this, what happened in this process, we cannot. It's like a dream. It's like a dream. I see this painting, it's like a dream as a Palestinian, dream to move, to travel freely everywhere. Can you go next page, please? I did this installation in my garden in Gaza, 2012, in siege. Actually, I use a lot of Palestinian traditional sample like olive, like fruit, like orange. You know, in Palestine, we used to import the orange fruit to the Europe and all over the world before Nakba. Now I feel this is orange represent me and the people in Gaza under siege. How it's hard to live all your life, like 2 million people in this just 360 kilometers square under siege. It's hard to live under siege. This is one of my expression to represent the life under siege and blockade, blockade in Gaza. Can you go to the next, please? Also, this image represent the immigration to the I called it the immigration to the heaven. Sorry, to represent people as the Palestinian and Syrian people, but now people from Middle East or everywhere, they try to cross the Mediterranean Sea to reach Europe, to try to start a safety and normal life. But unfortunately, thousands of these people die through crossing the Mediterranean Sea. We are all see this every day. This is very sad. And this is very hard for us as an artist. Can you go to the next image, please? I did this installation. By the way, the majority of my installation belong to the minimalism installation. I like to use, as I mentioned before, materials surrounding me. I inspired by the place. My PhD was about the place, because I believe art should come around us as an artist. We don't need to go far away. To import something like that. We have to look deeply around us. We will find a lot of issues to express about our human things. I remember when 2010, when the first war in Gaza done, after 51 crazy days, we stayed in my home 3.5 months without electricity. You cannot imagine life now without electricity, full 3.5 months. We cannot charge our mobile, we cannot see news. Even it was hard even to get the canal. Sorry. I mean, I remember when we went, it's hard to get a candle. I remember we went to the ancient age when we have leftover food. We used the ancient way how to keep it in the balcony to keep it for the next day, and that's it. It was the title of this work. It's Gaza in the 21st century. Can you go to the next image, please? Can you go to the next one, the biggest one? The third one, please. Yeah, this is one of the biggest installation I did in the Mattress Factory Museum in the Pittsburgh, United States, 3 years ago. This exactly represents the difficulties how people live and travel and move in Gaza. I use hundreds of original Palestinian passport with a stamp, also with real stamp, with wires, as we see, and also tons of Palestinian olive leaf. I feel, I remember when I left Gaza 4 years ago, it took me 1 year to leave Gaza. 1 year, really? How can you, that day it was very difficult. It's still the same, but we need, if you want to move Gaza, you can just under 3 conditions. First, to be international student. Second, to have another nationality or residence abroad, or for emergency healthcare or for surgery. If you are under these 3 conditions, you have to go and register your name in the Ministry of Interior, and you have to wait. Sometimes 5 months, sometimes a year. Can you go to the next one, please? Before, I mean the same artwork, but before, yeah, this one. I feel this, I stuck in the border as my passport here stuck in the wires. under siege, and no one talk about that. No one talk about Gaza, about 2 million people, how they can travel, how many people die because of the border closed and it's blockade. Can you go to the next one? Yeah, and also on the bottom of the artwork, I cannot forget, we have to keep our hope for freedom. This represent our hope someday, we will get our freedom, we will get our state in Holy Land. This kind of hope and freedom in this huge installation. Can you go to the next one, please? The next artwork, please. Also, I did also this installation in Gaza 2012. For me and for a Palestinian, olive tree, it's not just a food, as well as orange also. It's a history, it's a root, it's a connecting to the country, connecting to the land. This is our root, our identity. You know, it's not just pearls or jewels, it's priceless things, you know. As a Palestinian, this is our ID, this is our life. We cannot live without olive. I miss my olive tree in Gaza. Really, I missed so much, you know. Then I did this installation because this is a big value. For us as a Palestinian, it's a huge value. I don't know how I can explain, but it is, really. Can you go to the next one, please? As I mentioned before, I used to use my original materials in minimum way. This is Palestinian passport, the cover of Palestinian passport. It's still puzzle, it's still like a game. We still need time, we still hope we'll find a way to collect my identity. And I remember when I displayed this artwork in YMCA in Gaza, I give the people and audience time to fix it, to play with my artwork. Artwork is not holy work. You can do it, you can fix it, you can try, you can feel. Can you go to the next image, please? This artwork I displayed also in the museum, in MF Museum in Pittsburgh 4 or 5 years ago. I import these tools from the building area. It's simple, really, it's simple idea. I cut it like a shape of Palestine, map of Palestine. Maybe it's a good for the politician, Palestinian maybe, or because, you know, just Palestine need works, not just talk. Don't talk, just do something for Palestine. Because all the time we hear a lot of things, but in reality, we didn't see anything. I call this artwork Without Talk, the title of this artwork, Without Talk. Just do something, just build something for Palestine. Can you go to the next one, please? I did this installation just 10 days ago. You know, I was thinking a lot about the prisoners in Israelis jail. We have more than 5,000 prisoners, yeah. And now they are really, really under difficult situation, under risk in this coronavirus, COVID-19. And we every year, as all the Palestinians over the world, revive this Palestinian Prisoner Day in April 17. I did it this month to remind the world, really, there is still Palestinian prisoners, some of them 4 years ago in the prison. As an artist, I try to express myself about my issues, about my prisoners. Maybe we can show our issue to the world. Can you go to the next one, please? This is the last installation I did just a few days ago when Donald Trump, the President of the United States, decided to stop the immigration just a few days ago. Actually, we really, as a Palestinian, feel really, really upset from this political and the president. He did crazy and stupid things for us as a Palestinians, and all the time he's talking about building wall and banning people from coming and cross United States. And then I feel this is a sample of his decision to stop the immigration and to build the wall everywhere. Anyway, this is maybe it's minimum installation. I express about maybe, I don't know, we are feel upset as a Palestinian from this president. I hope will change soon. We'll lose the election soon. That's it. Thank you again. Thanks for having me again, and I'm pleasure to answer any question. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Mohammed. Maybe the number of prisoners in Israel is more like 15,000, the last I've heard. It's even a lot worse than what you mentioned. And that's a very large number. And that number includes a fair number of children underage and a large number of women prisoners as well.
Yeah.
Mervat, do we have any questions coming from?
Yeah, we have many actually. I have to say that the comments are overwhelmingly positive. I think people were really touched by both of your works. I have one question starting from D. Hamoude, and I believe she or he did not say to which artist, so I'm going to pose this question to both of you. What would you say has had the biggest influence on your development as an artist?
Maybe we'll start with Dana.
Mm-hmm. So the biggest influence would be, I say, like I mentioned before, the women in my family. They've had the biggest influence on me expressing myself through art and through being an artist.
Mohammed?
My story, when my father told me the story, when they forced to flee Palestine, my roots, my homeland, my human rights to live in freedom in Palestine. It's mainly my story, what happened in Palestine.
Okay. Next, Mervat.
Next question. Next question for Muhammad, also from D. How did being under siege, I guess you touched on, you explained that. Do you find that art with political message like yours can be commercially viable? How much of a challenge is this, if at all?
It's a good question. It's a big challenge, actually. But for me as an artist, I focus on my artwork, honestly. I focus to express myself, to represent these issues in a good way. Not just because I'm Palestinian artist, I'm talking about the prisoners, or I'm talking about Palestine, I have to represent anything. No, I take care about, because I respect my issue, I respect my problem, I try to express in a modern way to reach people as much as I can. About commercial, I don't care about that. The history will talk about that.
Okay, Mervat, you're on mute.
I don't see any other questions on Facebook for now. I do have a question of my own to both artists. I think one of the things, Mohammed, you clearly touched on is that our struggle, the Palestinian struggle and the Palestinian suffering is multifaceted, multi-layered, and there are people that really often deprived of the most basic human rights. And sometimes there is a sense of skepticism, even within, the Palestinian community, about the role of art and where it fits. Personally, I see what you're doing is incredible, and it plays such a role in our struggle. But how do you see your role in the Palestinian struggle? How do you feel your art contributes? And also, do you feel, have you encountered any skepticism towards your role as an artist in contributing and supporting the Palestinian cause?
Muhammad?
Yes, I thought, okay. As a Palestinian, I have to focus really, as I mentioned before, to do something, because I live all my life in Gaza. I saw by my eyes what happened. I saw the first Intifada. I saw the 3 wars. Even my house got attacked many times. Every war, by the way, every war. I feel it's a big responsibility for me to express about this issue, really. And even I asked myself this question. I came to Toronto 3 years ago. What else? What next? I still belong to this place. I still belong to the Gaza, to the Palestine. I still in my blood, all my thought about my issues, about my prisoners, about what happened in Gaza, my family, my feeling. Then I feel my art without issue is nothing. It's not just design. For this reason, I try. Maybe here I feel more responsibility more than before in Gaza, because here I saw the artwork reality. I need to introduce my issue in really modern way, in a good way, in the right way. And what I did, for example, the last installation about prisoners, even it's belong to the contemporary art. I have very good feedback about this installation. People like it so much. I feel I did something here far away from Palestine to feel this really with these thousands of Palestinian prisoners. I mean, there is a big responsibility for Palestinian artists everywhere, because I told you, now we carry our history, our issue, and teach our kids about what happened in Palestine, what happened in Nakba, because our history should be in our future. This is a big responsibility. I try to do with each artwork with concept connecting to Palestine.
Mohammed, your work is so powerful, and I think that's the consistent message we're getting on Facebook. I was personally fighting tears just listening to you and watching. And Dana, can you also comment on this and the role of your art? Also, it's really also a powerful testimony to the history and land and response to the myth that Palestine was without people. Can you elaborate on the role of your work?
Mm. So I strongly believe that art, at least my art, shouldn't be just out there for the sake of looking good or looking pretty. Definitely it should contribute to the current situation, the current, be it a struggle or preserving a culture. So this collection, like I said, it's titled A Land Without a People, and it challenges the intentional and institutional invisibility of Palestinian culture and existence, which is usually a narrative controlled by the powerful, a narrative that is controlled by people who are in power and who have enough power to erase a whole people. And why I think it's so important to remember, because now the generation that still remembers life before 1948 or around that time, close to that, this generation is now more or less vanishing. And it's the responsibility of us younger generations to keep this memory going and to keep the presence and culture and history and this whole people alive. as a challenge to this powerful narrative that has been going around, and that has, I don't think it has succeeded throughout the years to erase a whole people, because what is so special is that, like I said, Palestinians always found a way to show that they existed. And it's through creation, and it's whatever. It could be art, it could be singing, it could be dancing, it could be food, it could be anything, but there's always this existence that is there through creation. And this is the main message and role I hope that my art will play for this cause.
Thank you. There is a comment from one of our viewers on Facebook I'd like to read to you. It's from Durar Bekri, and he says, I wish we had such a museum here for Palestinian Arab artists living in modern day Israel. Me and many like me find it very hard to survive and make a living as artists. There is the Qattan Foundation. Yes, this is beautiful. I exhibited there, but we need more, much more. And I would like to assure Durar that the Palestine Museum US in the United States, in Connecticut, welcomes any artwork from Palestinians in modern day Israel as you described it. And we are happy to talk to you and see to it that your artwork is exhibited here and seen by a lot of people in the US and around the world. Thank you for your comment.
Yes, sir, can I add something?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to mention something. You know, maybe here in North America, I found people really a little bit far away from the real story, what happened in Palestine. Maybe in Europe, I had many artists, many exhibitions and residents. People know the story, know the real story. And sometimes they don't want to talk. It's a different story. But here in North America, even next generation, they start talking about conflict. No, it's not conflict, guys. It's occupation. For this reason, you did a great job, guys, in Palestinian Museum, really, because I understand how it's hard here to talk with people, to give them our story, the narrative, because this is something will change the future. We have to keep our story, our narrative, our art. This is kind of our resistance. We are here as a Palestinian. We still believe in Palestine. We give up, and to give people around, surrounding us, to teach our kids, not as they give in school, it's conflict, it's occupation. Go to the history and think about that. You did a great job in US to do something like that.
Thank you. There's one thing I wanted to share with everybody here. I think you might have seen it before the program started. Let me take a moment here to share it with you. At the Palestine Museum US website, there is a clock. And if you see it there, this clock, we call it the Nakba clock. And this clock is telling us how long has it been since the Nakba, since Palestine was lost. And it's ticking at any time, 71 years, 11 months, 12 days, 3 hours, 28 minutes, and it's 47 seconds and counting. So this is a reminder to us all as to what happened in 1948. Let's keep this clock in mind as we go about our lives, and let's see if we can one day put an end to this clock and make it stop.
Inshallah. Soon, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay.
We're here to stay, just like all of the olive trees, like you said, Muhammad.
Anybody else has any questions or comments?
Yeah, Dee has another question about the future of Palestinian art. What do you see is the future of Palestinian art? Question to both of you.
Go ahead, Dana.
Okay. So basically, not what I think, what I hope is that art creates the identity of people and the identity of populations. And throughout history, if we look at different indigenous people, if we look at Mexico, Latin America, their art has always been a way of creating the identity, of creating the national identity. And this is what I hope that the future of Palestinian art creates this, that first of all, there is more attention and more appreciation of art as a tool to mobilize and to deliver messages and to create an identity. And yes, this is what I hope for the future of Palestinian art.
Thank you. I think we're coming to the end of our program here. At this point, I really would like to thank the people watching us on Facebook around the world. And we're most grateful to the two artists who've been with us today. Certainly a very talented artist. We wish you great success and great careers in the future. This program will repeat again next Sunday. Each Sunday at noon US time, we have artist talks, and every time we'll pick different artists. Let me also remind you that we are in Palestine Art Week. Palestine Art Week is an initiative of the Palestine Museum US. This is the second annual celebration of Palestine Art Week. It is the last week in April, from April 24th to April 30th each year. And this is a virtual social media event. During this week, we ask people to post about their favorite arts and artists, and on all forms of social media using the hashtag Palestine Art Week. We would like to see a large number of posts. Each person should try to post 20, 30, 50, or 100 photographs, and this is not limited to visual arts. Also, it includes any form of Palestinian arts, including music, cinema, literary arts, sculpture, embroidery, etc. And also, during the next few days, we have additional programming almost on a daily basis. Our next programming is on Tuesday. We have an artist talk, and this time it's in the Arabic language. We have a number of artists who really are not good at speaking English, and we thought we'd dedicate a session to be conducted in Arabic to allow those artists to really tell us about their artwork, and without the cumbersome translation. On Wednesday, we have a session on Palestinian embroidery. And on Thursday, we have a session on literary arts with Susan Abul Hawa and a number of other Palestinian writers and poets. And we all look forward to all these exciting programs, and we hope that you will join us there. We will be putting announcements on Facebook about these activities. Nancy and Mervat, any other points you'd like to make?
I just want to thank you both. It's been really an honor and pleasure to have you and see your art. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure, and it's a great honor for us to have both of you on today. And I would like to wish you a safe and healthy weekend, and we'll see you again. We'll see some of you at least, hopefully on Tuesday. مع السلامة.
مع السلامة. رمضان كريم.
رمضان كريم. مع السلامة.